Welcome back. I've been madly in love with Mikey since I was 23. He's a great guy who's my total package. I would never do anything to hurt him or our relationship. 2 weeks ago, I had a girls' night out, and honestly, by the time dinner and margaritas were over with, I was sloshed, but kept going out to the bars. The bartender was this very physically cute guy who just turned 22, who I started very innocently flirting with, as if he was like a little brother's friend. Right away, we became Facebook friends. Mikey saw this and texted me, "Who's Brian?" And I replied, "Shh, if I'm nice, he'll give me drinks. Can't wait to see you do you drunk." He replied back instantly, "Good girl, call if you need a ride." So Mikey knew the whole night what I was up to, so the night was no big deal. I hugged my new friend goodbye, and instead of going to the strip club with my friends, I caught an Uber to Mikey's house and stayed with him. Little did I know that Mikey's brother Kevin was at the bar too. I don't know him too well, but I should have seen him. Well, he reported to Mikey that I had been overly flirtatious, that I'd been physical with the bartender aside from the hug, and I even pulled my top open to let him look at my cleavage. I know I was flirtatious, but don't recall any of this. Well, despite me telling Mikey who Brian was and what I was up to while it was happening, he's become so cold with me, as if I cheated on him. I've begged him to explain to me why things changed, and the most he can say is that it's different because of what Kevin said happened. I asked what that means, and he said he didn't know. I asked if we were breaking up, and he said he needed time. He hasn't spoken to me or called me in almost 10 days, and I'm devastated. I text him once a day to let him know he's the love of my life, but I'm basically ghosted in return. How do I get him back? My life doesn't exist without him in it. Did you inquire with any of your friends about that particular evening? Did any of them witness you lifting your shirt or engaging in any similar activities? If you did indeed perform these actions but have no recollection of them, it may be worthwhile to consider the role alcohol played in that situation. If you truly did not engage in those behaviors, it might be worth having a conversation with Kevin. Let him know that Mikey was aware of your minor flirtation for drinks and inquire why he fabricated the additional details. Immediately remove the bartender from your list of friends. Avoid returning to that bar in the future. Draft an email to Mikey offering an apology and expressing your desire to discuss the matter further. If Mikey's unwilling to engage in a conversation with you, it may indicate a lack of maturity necessary for a successful marriage. Comments. Innocently and flirting pretty hard are mutually inconsistent. There's no reason for Kevin to lie. If you did what he said you did, Mikey's reaction is perfectly reasonable. A 27-year-old engaged person using the suggestion of sex to get free drinks is pretty disgusting, FYI. How does one innocently flirt with the friends of their little brother? It sounds like you and your fiance had different ideas of what your relationship was. He probably expected you to be all in, and you don't see flirting as cheating. Fundamentally incompatible. How can you describe it as very innocently flirted, and yet Kevin sees it as basically cheating? It seems like you don't take responsibility for your actions. And if you're getting so drunk that you can't remember how much you did with a strange man, you need to drink less, or be single. You sound like you want him to get over this without taking responsibility for your role in it. Was it innocent and your fiance has no right to feel the way he does? Or did you cross a line and behave in a way you wouldn't have if he was there? I wouldn't waste any more time on a girl who acted like this when we were supposedly engaged and had 5 years of history. I wouldn't be all frick you or get nasty or anything like that. I would just be glad I knew before marriage, and I would pick myself up and move on. It wouldn't be worth the risk. Story 2. Me and Ron had been together for 2 years when this whole thing happened. We're both freshmen in college and had been long distance for about 9 months at that point. We've never had a perfect relationship. We're pretty different people and we have different opinions on a lot of topics. But our relationship was based on mutual respect, understanding, and immense love. About 6 months ago, however, we started fighting a lot. The distance was getting difficult, and I was feeling restless, trapped, and frankly crazy most of the time. I didn't know what was going on with me. I had just made a group of amazing friends and I was having a lot of fun with them. And whenever he called me while I was out with them, or we were having a planned Skype date and they were having fun, I was pretty bummed about it. I tried to fight that feeling. Obviously, I should want to spend more time with my boyfriend, right? But it resurfaced again and again. The cheating. In the meantime, one of my friends that I was getting close to was this guy Josh, 20 male, who's a lot like me. We were spending a lot of time together, but it never even crossed my mind that I was crossing any sort of boundaries, even though I was very conscious about this generally. All our interactions were extremely platonic. There was no sort of tension. So I didn't think it necessary to take any precautions. If I'm being honest with myself, I was attracted to him physically, but because of my low self-esteem, I couldn't even conceive he would ever reciprocate. He's a very aloof guy. So again, I didn't think any boundaries were crossed. One night we drank together, a mistake I know, but it had happened before with no bad consequences. And then we went for a walk. We started talking about more personal stuff and we just connected in a very intimate way. It wasn't some sort of magical soulmate bullshit, it was just genuine human connection. But it had been so long since I felt that it completely took me by surprise. Well, before I know it, we were holding hands and wrapping arms around each other's waists, and then went back to the dorms and started kissing. I was feeling extremely guilty, but I couldn't stop. The issue is, this happened again. The next day, I called Ron and told him we need to break up, but we had to wait a week because he had plane tickets to come see me. In the week before he came, I fooled around with Josh 2 more times, both times drunk. But that's obviously no excuse. I consciously made the choice to cheat on Ron. Long story short, Ron came, we broke up. He then found out about the cheating by reading my messages and decided to go no contact for a while. The question. Now I'm in so much distress over this whole thing. Before this, I was so convinced that I would never cheat. I had heard how much it hurts people, and I thought I would never do that to this person I love with all my heart. We had an insane amount of trust in each other, and I broke it in the worst way possible. My feelings were all over the place during that time. I was also fresh out of a long bout of depression, so feelings of any kind were weird and overwhelming. But I'm scared at myself for just falling out of love with Ron so quickly and without warning, and for so easily disregarding his feelings while I cheated on him. I didn't even feel guilty. It's like I couldn't process the fact that it would hurt him, because I was feeling too good. Looking back, I'm terrified at my actions. That wasn't me, but somehow it was. How do I move past that? How do I make sure it never happens again? Edit. Drinking alone with someone is something I definitely won't repeat when in a committed relationship. I meant to say that before the night we kissed, I had drank alone with Josh and there was no sort of tension or flirting or anything. So it came out of left field. But that's clearly not an excuse. I should have been firmer about my boundaries. It may be harsh, but it is necessary to embrace it as a part of your past. Recognizing that you've turned into, or at least have displayed traits of, the kind of person you might detest, or any other term you prefer, can be difficult. But we gain wisdom from our errors. Understand the significance of communication and acknowledge the impact of alcohol on your decision-making. Just like anyone else, you deserve happiness. But also realize that you have the power to either deprive yourself of it or let someone else take it away from you. Strive to become a better individual in the future. Comments. It sounds like you were pretty much done with the relationship and it wasn't high on your list of priorities anymore. I super do not understand why you would tell someone you'd have to break up in a week rather than just doing it. I wouldn't want to fly to see someone just to have them break up with me. Just get it over with and maybe I can use the airfare on going somewhere I actually want to go. Take it as a lesson learned. Communicate more of how you're feeling with future partners, and if you can't trust yourself to not make out with people when you're drunk, limit your drinking. If you want to prevent this, have some self-awareness and break up before you cheat. I don't really think it's that hard. You act as if this kind of thing just happened to you when in fact you made the active choice to cheat and continue to fool around. Instead of romanticizing the moment and describing to us the cheating like this is a love story, You should own up and understand that this was an incredibly selfish thing to do. Once you realize the magnitude of what you've done, then maybe you won't feel inclined to do it again. It's not like you guys are married and you're helplessly tied down. Just think before you act. Don't beat yourself up too much. People don't often plan on cheating, but life happens. This is a pretty unforgiving forum which views all things in a relationship as black and white, and often discounts actual human feelings and that good people can make mistakes. You aren't terrible, you're a human. You broke up with your boyfriend, or tried to, as soon as you could. Sure, ideally it would have been before, but you still handled your mistake well. It's okay to make mistakes. The fact that you're upset means that you do care about your almost ex-boyfriend. You should not be together, especially LDR, but that doesn't mean you don't care about his feelings. Breakups are good things ultimately.